This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now, where we bring you the 3 E's: educate, empower, and engage. I'm your host, Harvey Blankfeld, along with our co-host, Shelley Brown, and we've been selling homes here in Southern Nevada since 1988. Shelley and I are also very proud to be part of the Real Estate Radio Network. That is a national network of local real estate professionals delivering timely, balanced truths about local market conditions. And with us now in studio, we have Lee Drizin. Unfortunately, when there's a death and then the house is to be handed over to another one through a special deed or some kind of a special process outside of a trust. There's been a lot of issues with that of late, hasn't there not?
Yeah, particularly in the context of the disclosure issues as it relates to probates.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, probate is the process that is a court-supervised process. Whether someone dies with a will or without a will,
right,
this asset has to come through probate, and in many instances, if it includes real property and they want to sell the real property, now the real interesting issues pop up about these disclosures.
Right.
And so what happens is the seller's real property disclosure form, as you know, is a form that's completed by the seller. Well, the issue comes up if the person who is completing the form is either the personal administrator or the personal representative. They have no knowledge about the property.
They may have never been in the property.
Well, it's like buying a property from a bank.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there is no exemption under the law that says that in the context of a probate sale, you don't have to have the seller's real property disclosure form. So the problem is, from the buyer's perspective, what reliance, if any, can you place on the real property disclosure form? So it really raises a number of issues, and we always look at it from the buyer and the seller side. From the seller side, we always suggest to them, look, you're the one who's signing that document, and maybe what you want to do is, why don't you spring for a home inspection? At least then you can attach that to your disclosure form. You can indicate that you don't know the history, but you've had an inspection done. We explain to them what the cost of that is. Mm-hmm. And now at least it's, from a liability standpoint, helping protect you.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
From the buyer standpoint, we look at a couple different things. Number one, we always talk to them about the fact that on the due diligence period, if you're buying in the context of a probate property, maybe you want to ask for a little bit lengthier period to get all the inspections that you want, because a home inspection, it can be great in identifying the source of some problems, but as we know, it is not a mold inspection. Right. It's not a roof certification. And so particularly in light of the fact that the real property disclosure form you're getting may not be something that you can rely on as being an accurate picture, because that person only is disclosing what they know. And if they don't know, it's really useless in that regard.
Can we talk a little bit more about probate and how that comes into play with title? And if you don't have a spousal deed or something of that nature, and someone passes away and it gets passed through to someone else in the family, is there a shortcut around probate? Is there a way to get through it without having to wait all that time or pay all that money?
One of the things that we're seeing are more and more times the owners of real property are using what's called a transfer on death deed. And it's a really interesting document. It can save in a lot of funds, a lot of expenses, particularly attorney's fees.
Right.
And essentially what it is, it works just like a payable on death account. I execute a deed today while I'm alive and competent that says, upon my death, this is who's going to get my property. I can leave that property in shares to a number of different people, and then I record that deed. And what's interesting is it's not an encumbrance on the property. It doesn't prevent me, if I sell the property in the future, that deed just disappears.
Oh, okay.
I can change it, I can revoke it entirely, or I can amend it. And it is a nifty little document. And so what happens is, upon shift down into the future, I pass away. Now, the person who I've identified simply comes in with an affidavit of death. They record that against the property. They become the owner of the property.
Okay.
You've been listening to Las Vegas Real Estate Now with hosts Harvey Blankfeld and Shelley Brown. Please tune in every Saturday at 11 a.m. right here on News Talk 720 KDWN.